So real quick, I'd just love to introduce Dr. Verena. She just have a simple introduction because of the time. She is a training and outreach coordinator with hereditary health and what's the third age? You're going to get to know Bio Network South Africa. So Dr. Verena, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please, can we give her the co-host right so that she can share our screen?
She's already a co-host.
All right, please just go into the full screen mode such that we can see your screen maximally.
Can you just confirm that you are seeing my screen and not the presenter view?
Yeah. So we can see you now.
Great, okay, perfect. So hi everyone.
So,
yeah.
we can see your notes.
Presenter view, yeah.
Okay, sure. Let me just see if I can switch.
It is kind of in a presenter mode. We can still make use of this. Yeah, perfect now.
Sure. Okay, sure. You can see it now?
Yeah.
Perfect. So hi everyone. I am Verena Ras. I package. So I just want to thank everybody for firstly inviting me to be with you all today. It's been a really wonderful day so far, actually. I've really been enjoying all the presentations, all the talks, and learning from everybody else's experience as well. So I'm getting a warning that my internet is a little bit unstable. So if you all don't mind, I'm actually going to just switch off my video so that my screen stays up and you can hear my audio. But I'll switch it on a little bit later if my internet stabilizes a little bit. Right, so just to give you an overview of what I will be just touching on briefly with this talk, I would like to give you all a brief overview of HCA Bionet and who we are. I'd like to cover very briefly as well some of the HCA Bionet training and also our training models. I will discuss our multiple delivery training model in a little bit more depth than some of the other things I'll talk about, because this is a model that we really are proud of as an organization. And a lot of development went into this model, and I'll talk to why it's been such an amazing model for us. And then I'll also talk to how we've adapted this model more recently for much more advanced bioinformatics training. And then I'll touch on some of the other mechanisms that we are using to share our training and make it a little bit more reusable, a little bit more findable and interoperable. So I'll speak to FAIR and bioschemas a little bit, and then I'll speak to the DSI Africa Initiative, but more specifically ILWAZI, which is the open data science platform and the group that I'll be forming part of going forward. So for those of you who might not be too familiar with us, I just thought I'd do a quick introduction to HCA Bionet. So H3A Bionet is a Pan-African bioinformatics network, and we are part of the Human Hereditary and Health in Africa Consortium, also known as H3 Africa. And at the moment, we are currently comprised of 28 partners, and we are spread across 17 different countries. And so we have quite a nice representation across Africa already, which I'm quite happy about, and I'm sure everybody's quite proud of. And we have over 200 members at the moment. So we are quite a large consortium at the moment. But HCA Bionet was established to develop bioinformatics capacity in Africa, and more specifically, to enable genomics data analysis by HCA Africa researchers across the continent. And that was our initial goal and aim, and it's expanded a lot more since then. But basically, HCA Bionet is developing human capacity through training and support for data analysis, and also facilitating access to informatics infrastructure by developing or providing access to pipelines and tools for predominantly human microbiome and pathogen genomic data analysis. And so the major goal, of course, of HCA Bionet overall is then to increase the number of qualified bioinformatics graduates on the continent, but also to create research opportunities and also, very importantly, provide some financial support for promising new graduates in the area of bioinformatics. One thing HCA Bionet really wanted to do was to kind of slow the brain drain in Africa and attract some Africans back to the continent who are studying abroad. So to make Africa more attractive as a bioinformatics, leader across the world. And so one of the ways that we, of course, do that is through training. And that's predominantly what I do as part of HABINET. I work with the training work package, and we work on, designing inclusive training models and just unique training modalities so that we can reach as many people across Africa as possible. And so HABINET does training in a number of different ways. So we have run over the course of the last decade or so, a lot of face-to-face workshops. We've done a lot of trainer style courses. So we focused on developing capacity in trainers. We've also awarded quite a few internships. And so internships have obviously slowed down a little bit during the COVID years now, but before that, we did try to move graduates around so that they could get hands-on or experience in different labs. And that's also been something that we try to push quite a lot. We've done a lot of live and online training, and we also focus a lot on hackathons and jamborees, and each of these components are done with a different end goal in mind. And I want to say that when HABINET just started, obviously the focus was a lot on face-to-face workshops. And so with that, we ran many face-to-face workshops, but we realized very, very quickly, we've got a huge network across Africa. And when we run face-to-face workshops, we are reaching 20 to 30 people per course or per workshop. And so that was really just not good enough. And so we wanted to create models that could reach more and more people across Africa simultaneously so that we could actually train more people simultaneously, and in that way also increase capacity for a lot of this type of work. And so one thing we really worked really hard on is developing this sort of multiple delivery mode training model. And so it uses a lot of different approaches to teach particular courses. The first course that we ran, and one of our flagship courses, is our Introduction to Bioinformatics course. And this course was run because, of course, there was a need for just foundational training across Africa. When HABINET just started up, a lot of people wanted foundational training, but we couldn't run, 100 face-to-face workshops in a year. And so what we did was we decided, well, let's try this multiple delivery mode training model. And it was designed to reach multiple classrooms, multiple sites across Africa at the same time. And how the model works is that we would basically have institutions apply to host the classroom. So we'd have a call for classrooms. They went through a rigorous selection process. And if we felt that they had the capacity to run the workshop, they were accepted as a host. We then allowed a round of participant applications, and each classroom basically had this set of participant applications. They did their selections as well, and these participants then joined that classroom. But what made this model really, really unique is that although it was a distributed classroom model, within each classroom we had a coordinator, we had a teaching assistant, and we had a systems admin for on-site support. And then we had all of us in the background as the core team, also supporting those classrooms with an added level of support. And so what this allowed us to do is to reach hundreds of participants across numerous classrooms every year now. We're running IBT actually now for the 7th time this year. And last year we had something like 50 classrooms running at the same time, spread across about 15 or 16 countries in Africa. And we had close to 2,000 people taking the course at the same time. And that was really fantastic for us. So the whole course we feel is quite scalable. We started with about 26 classrooms and it grew organically to about 50 classrooms. I don't know if we're going to have more than that this year because my capacity is wearing a little bit thin to manage everybody. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, as long as you have more hands on the core team, the model can continue to grow on end, really. But what we did with this particular model is we made use of a lot of online tools initially because we wanted to remove that infrastructural burden on the classrooms because they were spread across Africa. They all had different issues at the time. Sometimes they were low resourced in terms of capacity. Some classrooms had intermittent internet. And so we all are aware of a lot of the problems in Africa. It's a very, very heterogeneous sort of environment. And so this kind of made the environment a lot more homogeneous because now everybody was using the same online tools. And so all you really needed was a computer and a browser and you were good to go. But then we started training thousands of people across Africa. And so now everybody was coming back to us and saying, well, this model is wonderful, but how can we do something more advanced? Or can we do something more advanced? And so at some point, myself and another training person at HABINET went, well, let's try and do something more advanced and let's see how it goes. And that kind of spurred and sort of led to the development of an adapted multiple delivery model. And so what we did with a 16S course that we ran for a couple of years now is we actually had a bunch of people from different domains come together. So we had us as the trainers and the curriculum developers, we had developers come together, sysadmins come together, and we decided, well, let's try and package all the tools, the data sets, software, dependencies, packages, everything into a container. Let's actually now try and get these classrooms to pull that container, install it, manage it, run it locally, and then see how they fare. And so what we did with this particular model is we had a smaller cohort of classrooms because now the infrastructure became very important. HABINET has invested a lot in infrastructural development across all of our nodes across Africa. And so we were quite confident that the computational resources were there in most cases. And so we also wanted to have them develop their own ability, both for 16S analysis, but also for running these kinds of courses and workshops on their own, even if HABINET disappears for whatever reason. So what we had them do was pull these containers, give all these students access to their servers or clusters, wherever the container was hosted, and they actually needed to run analyses in the cloud for the course. And so this, a lot of people kind of told us, you're a little bit crazy, we don't really think this is going to work. But I'm really proud to say that it has worked, and it's been working for a few years now. And we've run, I think, about 3 or 4 iterations of the 16S course now. And at the last course, we had about 30 classrooms who all ran this course in this sort of model, and it worked really, really well. One thing we also do with the model is we actively manage everybody with the learning management site. And so we actually track every single participant all the time. And so we give them graded tests and assignments. There's lots of feedback tools, forums, and we manage literally every single participant quite actively. And we also grade everything that they do. And so this was a very exciting model for us to see work. It also then caught the interest of the international community, really. And last year, for the first time, we teamed up with the Wellcome Trust, and they've got a wonderful NGS course that they run. But their course is run obviously with a slightly different model, so they use a VM. And so we tried this model last year for the first time for that NGS course. The VM was incredibly large. It was about 40 gigs unpacked. When it was zipped, it was 20 gigs. And so each participant had to pull this VM and then, work with us via the learning management site and online lessons because of COVID. They couldn't join their physical classrooms anymore. So the whole course became virtual, but it still worked. It became a truly blended learning experience. But it was really exciting for us to see that whereas the Wellcome Trust could reach 20 people per workshop, and they ran the workshop maybe twice a year, last year alone, I think we reached, over 300 people with that training, and it ran for about 3 months. This year, we have about 600 people on the course and 39 classrooms doing NGS analyses and really advanced analyses. So they're doing everything from QC to RNA-seq, ChIP-seq, genome assembly, really the whole shebang. They're working their way through the content and they're managing. And so that's also been really exciting for us. And so I won't speak to a lot of these topics in too much detail, just in the interest of time, but I did want to just touch on a couple of other things that HABINET has been doing to just increase and grow their impact across Africa as well. And so one thing we are focusing on quite heavily, not just in training, but overall, is the concept of FAIR. So making everything findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And so we are making sure that we are really hitting all of those FAIR indicators, whether it be with our software and tools or with our training materials. And one of the ways that we are making things more fair is also by implementing bioschemas. And so we are currently testing the implementation of bioschemas. So bioschemas allow you to mark up your website with some semantic text. And so it allows obviously scrapers, web scrapers especially, to find your content quite easily, at least in the case of training materials. And so there are 3 different schemas that relate to training. And so we're trying to implement them. And what this will help other web scrapers and people who host catalogs of training, for example, to do is to automatically pull in any training we've ever done once these schemas are implemented. And again, in that way, we are making our training materials very much more findable and accessible. And it's also being duplicated in a lot of other repos, which I think is very exciting. We also have embarked and assisted with a lot of competency development for bioinformatics. So the International Society for Computational Biology has suggested a core set of competencies that they would like bioinformaticians to have. And so what we do is we actually use those competencies to drive all of our curriculum development. Even workshops and courses are mapped to competencies because it's very vital to us that we actually develop these competencies at an appropriate level for the audience or the user, the end user. So what the ISCB competencies have done in the past is that they've come up with a whole bunch of personas. I've just taken a snapshot of a couple of the personas. There are very many more than these. And then what they've done is taken their competencies, their suggested core competencies, and they've used Bloom's taxonomy to map out, at what level does all of these different personas need a particular competency. And so what that does is really just help drive the development of your course and make sure that you're hitting the competency at the correct level for that particular persona. And so I've just got a couple up here on the screen. You can see I've got a physician, a lab technician, an ethicist, and a biocurator, for example. And then I've just pulled out just a snapshot of some of the competencies. These are not all of the competencies. There are more than these, but these are just the first few. So you can see here that basically we use Bloom's taxonomy to map the level or the depth of knowledge that they would need or ability or competency for these competencies. So just for example, statistical research methods, we would basically suggest that all of them basically have knowledge to comprehension level in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, but a biocurator might not have to, so a biocurator would have to have this competency at this level, whereas the others could have it at a lower level. But we use it in that way to just kind of develop curricula. And it's been very interesting the way that our curriculums have actually changed as a result. And so these competencies are actually being further developed now. There's a paper coming out, I think, in maybe about a month's time, maybe less, where we basically are expanding these competencies to include more data science competencies, but also adding knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And so we hope that that will also assist everybody in using the competencies. And there's a lot of other developments happening around these competencies. So lots of tools that the ISCB, for example, are working on, automated tools where you can go to the website, for example, and say, I am a physician and I want to learn X, and they will pop out what competencies you actually need to develop to be considered competent at a particular level. So that's been quite interesting for us. One other thing that HABINET is focusing on quite a lot are guides and SOPs. So if you visit our website, possibly after this talk, you will see that we have a lot of SOPs, a lot of how-to guides that we've been developing that's based on a lot of our work. I'm not going to talk to obviously all the others, but I'll talk to the training guide. We've developed quite a comprehensive training guide as well. So if you do not have experience in running bioinformatics courses, we've put together just a very short guide. It's not very comprehensive, but a quick guide to guide you through the main steps that we typically take when we design our training. And these steps are on the slide. So you can see that we think quite thoroughly about the way that we do training. These are our steps just for workshops. Courses sometimes can be a little bit more complex, and of course degree programs a lot more complex than this. But this is our basic training workflow. And so we follow this for each and every course that we design. And what we've done is we've packaged that into a little, just a simple PDF document that also has a whole bunch of templates and little help guides that can help you do training in the way that we do it, if you're interested in that, of course. But we've made lots of resources available. Everything's been created under Creative Commons licenses. And so you're welcome to take it, adapt it, reuse it as you see fit. And so that's also something that we're really excited about. And all of these resources are loaded onto public repositories, excuse me. The one that we use quite a lot is Ziva Hub. So Ziva Hub is the UCT instance of Figshare. So it's a local instance of Figshare. And so we use this quite a lot to upload our materials and to make it more findable. It attaches a DOI, it versions the materials. And so it's really quite lovely in that way. And we actually upload all of our training materials now onto Ziva Hub. And so if you went to Ziva Hub now and you search for HABINET, you'd actually see all of our older course materials that we've managed to curate so far available there as archives that contain workflows, slides, often videos, data sets. So just whatever you would need to actually be able to do that training, hopefully on your own. So that's been quite great. Now, in the interest of time, I'm not going to speak to the DSI Africa Initiative in too much depth, but I just thought I would tell you a little bit about the DSI Africa Initiative. It's quite sad for me to say that HABINET is actually soon coming to an end. We are ending our funding cycle. We've been funded for, I think, more than 10 years now. So it's time for something new, I guess. And so we've been funded by this new NIH DSI Africa Initiative. And basically, the whole idea behind this initiative is that infrastructure and capacity development are a big focus, of course, of boosting health research on the continent. And so the work will be facilitated through 5-year grants that have been awarded by the NIH, by the Common Fund, which is called Harnessing Data Science for Health Discovery and Innovation in Africa. And they've awarded actually in the region of $75 million to various research hubs that are in various places and are focusing on different things. So some research hubs are obviously data intensive, so focusing on the science, but then there are also training groups that are focusing on increasing just capacity for analyses. And there are also things like LC research groups, so groups exploring the ethical, legal, and social implications. And then there's the Open Data Science Platform and Coordination Center, which is the group that I'll form a part of going forward. And really, this group just wants to facilitate the development of a trans-African network of data scientists. So just to tell you just briefly about the ODSP, the ODSP will, in essence, develop a flexible, scalable, open data science platform for the DSI Africa Consortium to find and access data, select tools and workflows, run analyses, but very importantly, on a choice of computing environments, all through easy-to-use workspaces. And then administration and support of the core resources and consortium will be kind of coordinated by a coordinating center. And so those of us at the central HABINET team, a lot of us will be forming part of that coordinating center going forward. But together with—
Please, can you just round up quickly so that we could have the next panel? I think we just have 10 more minutes for the African section. Please continue.
Sure, I thought I had 30 minutes, but no problem.
All right.
Okay, sure. So let me just actually wrap up then. So this is just a quick snapshot of what that platform is going to look like. We'll have all these workspaces where you can basically choose how you want to run, what you want to run. And it's going to be federated, so you can either bring the data to the tools or the tools to the data. And so we're very excited about this whole initiative and where it might lead African science. And I'll stop there.